Hello, my name is Madison Ezell, and I'm going to talk to y'all about my life literacy map. From the time I was about 1 years old, my parents were always reading different children's books to me. As you can see in this picture, my dad would put a book in front of me, and I would babble words and act like I knew how to read and what I was reading. My parents said I loved looking at all of the pictures on the page, and that I liked to flip every page myself. If someone tried to flip the page for me, I would flip it back and then reflip it because I wanted to do it myself because I was very independent. As you can see in this picture, I have an older sister who is 4 years older than me, and her name is Katie. She loved to read books to me even though she was a beginner reader and would sometimes just make up the words to the book. My mom and dad told me that she liked to pretend like she was the teacher and made me sit in front of her and listen to her read countless books for hours. So, for my first book, I chose Growing Vegetable Soup by Louise Ellert. I chose this book because that was the book that my sister was actually reading to me in the book, and it is about growing your own vegetables to make your own soup, and it shows you all of the little tools that you can use to dig up vegetables. We love this book, and she read this book to me for years. We would go into her room and play in her kitchen and act like we were making the vegetable soup that was in the book. We loved to play kitchen and house and school, so this was an everyday deal. We would make each other try our vegetable soup, and it would then turn into an argument about whose soup was better. It was not long until my little brother was born and grew up to play this game and read Growing Vegetable Soup with us. By this time, my sister could read, so she knew all the instructions to growing vegetable soup, and she told us that her soup was the best because she knew all the instructions since she could read and we couldn't. The next book that I chose was Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss, and it's a children's book that talks about why Sam's favorite snack is green eggs and ham. About a month into kindergarten, with my favorite teacher, Miss Lemons, we got to wear our pajamas to school, and she read us Green Eggs and Ham. All of the kindergarten classes got together, and our teachers made us green eggs and ham. This was a really cool experience because it was fun for the class, and I came home and talked to my parents and my family all about it. I just thought it was really cool because I still remember it, and it was something really cool that we got to do. The next book that I chose is Just a Special Thanksgiving by Mercer Mayer, and it's a children's book that talks about little critters' way of spending Thanksgiving. It was definitely one of my favorite books in kindergarten. I read and owned many of Mercer Mayer's books, and I still have almost all of them. The reason this book stands out to me is because during kindergarten, my Thanksgiving feast or party was my favorite holiday party that I had in school. I remember Miss Lemons reading this book to us in class and then having us trace our hand and make a turkey out of our hand. We then turned this hand turkey into a Christmas ornament, which is really cool because we got to have something to hang up on our tree for Christmas. And I actually still have the ornament to this day. After reading this book and making our hand turkey, all of our parents came to the school and brought food, and we had our own little Thanksgiving in our classroom with all of our friends. One of my favorite series growing up was Franklin the Turtle by Paulette Bourgeois. My mom and dad always read Franklin the Turtle books to me, and I would practice reading these books to my brother. In kindergarten, my teacher gave us this thing called the Scatty Finger. It was a little black finger with a red nail, and she wanted us to put it on our pointer finger as we read to follow along with the words. I would use my scary finger when reading Franklin the Turtle books to my parents and brother. The next book that I chose was No David by David Shannon. It's a book about a little boy who always gets told no due to doing what he's not supposed to be doing. In first grade, my teacher read us this book on the first week of school to explain to us what bad behavior was and how we would not behave like that at school. I love the No David book and I read it all the time. My mom purchased the book for me from the book fair so that I could have my own copy at home. The next book that I chose was There Was an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly by Sims Tabak, and it's a children's book that talks about a lady that swallows all kinds of crazy stuff. My first grade teacher read us this book when talking about rhyming and repetitiveness, and I remember thinking this book was so funny. Our class loved this book, and our teacher found the other books that went off of this book and would read it to us. I remember multiple teachers reading this book to my classes when I was little, and I remember enjoying it every time. The next book that I chose was Chicka Chicka Boom Boom by Bill Martin Jr., and it's a children's book that talks about the alphabet climbing up a tree. It was very popular when I was little, and it still is today. My mom read this book all the time to me when I was learning my ABCs, and I almost had this book memorized because that's how much we read it. I still enjoy this book, and I read it to my 3-year-old cousin. Her name is Avery, and she has Down syndrome, and she loves this book. And every time she comes over, she says that she wants to read Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, which is really great because her speech is behind and it took her a while to say a lot of her words. But one of the first things that she could say was Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. And so every time that she comes over, she says that she wants to read this book. My next book for my life literacy map is actually written by my second grade class. It is called Kids Are Teachers Too. Second grade was a very difficult year for me. During my second grade year, I missed a lot of school due to having strep throat a lot. I actually ended up having to have my tonsils removed in the middle of my second grade year and missed 2.5 weeks of school. My classmates made me get well soon cards, and when I got back to school, they were also helpful in catching me up. About a month when I got back to class, we made this book, and we all had to write a page about one of our life lessons and how we could teach someone about it. My life lesson was full of all kinds of stuff, as you can read in this picture. I also drew a picture of my life lesson in the book, and it is safe to say that I am not an artist. The next book that I chose is actually a series, and that is The Magic School Bus. These books were read a lot during the science portions of my class time, and I really enjoyed them because we also got to watch the movie over the different Magic School Bus books that we read. I struggle with science, and it has never really been something that I enjoyed, but I really like these books because it explains different science lessons in a fun and creative way. The next book series that I chose was Junie B. Jones by Barbara Park. I love Junie B. Jones and still do today. I read so many Junie B. Jones books growing up, and they were my favorite chapter books to read. I would say they are good chapter books for students to start with because they are an easy read and they are enjoyable. I am a substitute for Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, and I noticed that almost every teacher that I have subbed for has Junie B. Jones series in their classroom, and that makes me so happy. The last book that I chose that has made a huge impact on my life would have to be Charlotte's Web by E.B. White, and it's a book about a little girl and a pig and a spider. This was my favorite book in 5th grade when I found out that my teacher did not think that I was at the correct reading level as everyone else in my class. This took a huge toll on me and made me feel really embarrassed. I had to stay after school 3 times a week to go to reading tutoring because my teacher did not think I would pass the text test, and I actually ended up making 100 on my test, which was such a relief. Charlotte's Web reminds me of this because this was the book I was reading during the time at school, and the movie also came out this year, which is really exciting. That is all I have for my life literacy map. So thank you for listening.